So people, y'all, was streaming Netflix, Hulu, Prime, all the other platforms out there, and comment and let me know which ones y'all fuck with the most. Peacock, etc., for the wrestling fans and all that, man. But with streaming being what it is, older films, older movies, older shows get brought back via the Netflix and social network, or sometimes Netflix will get a package like when they picked up all the Rocky movies or whatever, you know what I mean? And they'll make a big thing, a social media push with it, and it'll catch on and it'll bring certain ish back. And right now, Denzel Washington, American Gangster, has been getting brought back. The streaming numbers are up a little something. With it being brought back to the forefront, there's an interesting discussion that has been brought up within hip hop, right? How this movie, which time, it's not like it wasn't something I was unaware of. But I don't know, I guess it just didn't really catch me the way it does now when I look back on this, that it was interesting where it inspired Jay-Z to do a whole project. I don't know if it was officially known as the soundtrack, but he made an American Gangster album. You know what I'm saying? It had the lead off single Blue Magic, which was obviously Frank Lucas, who the movie told the story of Harlem Kingpin. You know what I mean? Inside conversation to those that used to read the Don Diva magazines and all that. You guys remember back then when the movie blew up in '07 and became what it was, a classic. Like we said, Netflix is pushing this resurgence now, but back then in the Don Diva magazines, as it always goes with true crime movies or crime docu-series, crime documentaries, movies based on crimes, etc., biopics, there's always controversies like how accurate was this or not. And with the Frank Lucas story, there was a guy that was saying, man, Frank Lucas was an ish, I was the truth. And he was going by Sergeant Smack, Ike Atkinson, I believe his name was. Don't quote me on that, but it was something that Don Diva picked up, man. Like, Don Diva used to be the ish. I'm surprised it doesn't have more of an internet presence, or maybe it does and I'm not aware of it, but I just don't see it. The brand that big in this blogosphere era on social network and all that, you know what I mean? But he was someone who was saying, like, I was really the truth. Frank Lucas was up under me. And it was interesting in the movie, whoever the plug was, when he went over to Vietnam, in the movie it was portrayed as someone that was like his cousin, you know what I mean? And he just said, hey man, I need to go over here and I need to get a bunch of smack juice, plug me in. And he was like, yo Frank, for the type of pack you're talking about, man, you're gonna have to get with the whatever syndicate and all that. And he said, man, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, the way that they portrayed Frank Lucas in that movie was just, he had that can-do spirit. You know what I mean? He was Bumpy Johnson's driver in Side Convo on Side Convo. Who out there flux with the show Godfather of Harlem, man? I don't know if that show is still going on. I was like a season behind, but it was a dope show, man, and that inspired some new music. R.I.P. DMX and Rick Ross on the title track, man, with Swizzy on the beat was something crazy, man. But getting back to what I was saying, I was just intrigued to know if any of y'all remember that whole, controversy back then. This guy stepping up saying he was the plug, where in the movie they just was like it was Frank's cousin, and then at the end, next thing you know, like, what helped him with the case was that the government didn't really want, it to get out to the people that the military in one way or another, even if it was unbeknownst to them, was involved in drug trafficking. And there's the whole cadaver connect, the D-Rugs being transported back through dead soldiers. Like we said, the military in the movie didn't want the public getting a whiff of that, and there's been people that have disputed that and said that it was really coming back in furniture and in stash and other items. Cadaver Connect side of things was, kind of amplified out of reality in the movie. I don't know, it's always interesting when you watch these movies, what's really accurate and what's less accurate, because it's based on a true story, right? But getting back to what we were saying, it was interesting that Jay-Z been moved to the point that he decided to make a whole project. Because if y'all recall, right, he had the Black album, Then he retired, and then how long was that? What, 2 years or so before Kingdom Come dropped, I think, and then we got American Gangster. I believe that's the order the projects went, and then the Blueprint 3. And man, oh man, another side conversation. I remember back with all those Jay-Z Illuminati, Jay-Z is a Freemason, etc. Theories and everything that were being pushed out in the blogosphere back then. His retirement was heavily featured in those theories very often. It really is intriguing though that Jay-Z was moved to the point of making a album, you know what I mean? And that's what the big discussion here is, in the hip hop circles, with Netflix bringing American Gangster back to the forefront, right? I'm intrigued by this article here, right, where they're saying, that this was like one of his better works, and I want to know where y'all rate that album amongst the Jay-Z catalog. It says Denzel Washington's '07 crime thriller American Gangster inspired Jay-Z's album of the same name, which again, think about it, he was retired, came back with Kingdom Come, and then the American Gangster. Like, that's kind of a big deal that Jay was inspired in that way. And I wonder how the story really went with all that. You know what I mean? Like, did Hove go to the people that were doing the movie? I think at this point in time is when he had the Def Jam presidency. I could be wrong. It says Jay-Z wanted to provide backstories and emotions not shown in the film. And the film took Jay back to a place he hadn't been for a while. The album was a marked improvement over Jay-Z's previous disappointing release. And with that being said, that's what I'm asking y'all. Do you believe that to be true? What do you think of the American Gangster project? And what do you think of Jay being taken back to a place, quote unquote, as we know, Marcy Projects, Hallway Loiterer, and all that stuff he shared in his music. Hustling was a big part of Jay-Z's story growing up. You know what I mean? That he was in the streets pumping work in the 80s. He says that in the Blue Magic track. People want to bring the 80s back. It's okay, this where they made me at. Did y'all think the album was hard? Do you think Kingdom Come was weak? I've often heard that in many discussions amongst hip hop heads, that Kingdom Come was looked at as a bullshit release, and a lot of people just weren't feeling it like that. Do you agree with that? Do you agree? And if you do or don't you agree with that, this project was an improvement over Kingdom Come, and where do you rate both these projects amongst Jay-Z's catalog? The Blueprint 3 was hard as fuck, though. I gotta say that was a couple years later, all right? '08, '09, man, I get taken back, man, with the nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? Kind of got somewhat of a midlife crisis going on, so that's something else when it comes to the music and stuff like that, and streaming, bringing things back. It's just an interesting world we're living in those aspects when it comes to music and movies and things like that. You know what I mean? And like, we got where TikTok will blow up and make someone, like this Tommy Richmond dude, that I'm not a hip hop artist and all that BS and stuff going on, right? But you also have streaming bringing back older movies, which may feature a dope track in the movie, you know what I mean, that someone will hear, and then it'll take a hip hop head, or even not a hip hop track, just a song from a certain era, you know what I mean, when soundtracks were different. And it's kind of interesting too, over the past few years, I can't remember if it was Judas and the Black Messiah or if it was a different movie. Jay-Z did a song on the movie, and I think Roc Nation had the movie soundtrack. Again, I'm not positive if it was Judas and the Black Messiah, but we even saw Hove launch an Instagram account for a couple months just to promote the movie, kind of like all the way back in this era we're talking about, when Jay-Z was fresh out of retirement. It's an interesting discussion, and I wanted to hear everyone's thoughts, take an opinion out there. And something else about the movie that's kind of wild that I wonder about the accuracy, or was just intriguing to me, is Russell Crowe, who recently did the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm not positive, but him and RZA have, developed a friendship and they work together in this movie. We know RZA went on to be quite the actor. You know what I'm saying? You got RZA, Exhibit had a pretty good acting career. Method Man been in a lot of ish. Of course, Ice Cube, Ice T. You know what I mean? But RZA collabed with Russell Crowe on this, and they went on to be pretty good friends and all that. He mentioned it on the Joe Rogan podcast. But the character that he played, Detective Richie Roberts, you know what I mean, who was a Boy Scout. Y'all remember that? His partner got strung out on that smack juice, and he was like, no one will work with me. You turned over $1 million. Like, no one trusts me. They think that we're rats, which is something that is always intriguing to me as well. Like, we see it play out in a lot of gangster movies and cop dramas and cop TV shows, right, with internal affairs and all that, that the police has that attitude towards rats as well, just like the streets. But his partner got strung out, and later he headed the task force that took down Bumpy John, or I'm sorry, Frank Lucas, Denzel Washington's character. And it's just so wild to think when we see the film close out, like, this dude was a Boy Scout. Yes, he was going to law school at the same time, but it was bugged out that he ended up working with Frank Lucas later on and collabing in that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's intriguing. A lot of people, that maybe how accurate that is or isn't about dude being a Boy Scout and everything, right? Like, when they get into a certain line of work, they want to make a change and and switch things up and make a difference. But at the end of the day, when you're in the belly of the beast and you see the streets and money and how grimy everything it is, corruption through the police, like, in the way politics goes, there's only so much a motherfucker can really do. You know what I mean? But that's all I got on this one. Thanks for watching. Hit the comments, higher body. Want to hear from everyone out there. If you're new, it's all about tapping in with y'all. Subscribe. It's Coffee. We talk music, news, sports, and more. And I'm up out of here, y'all. Peace.